USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Brooks Running reminds us that we're all powered by something. Whether it's the me-time energy of a run after a day at the office, the electrifying energy of your first marathon, or the infectious energy of a group run with your friends. No matter what energy powers you, Brooks has gear specifically designed to unleash it. So lace up and let it out. Let's run there. Visit brooksrunning.com today to learn more.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar, zero patience for slow walkers, those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night, have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero here on the Tour Coach Podcast, where we bring you the best mental coaches, fitness experts, teachers, players, everything from my journey in the game of golf to help you learn to play better golf, teach better golf, and enjoy the game. Come on in. We're going to have some fun.
All right. Joining me here on the Tour Coach. He's one of the longest running guests on this podcast and way back from the radio days here on the Dew Sweepers. My good friend from out in the ghetto in California, in SoCal, Brady Riggs. What are you doing, bud?
You know, I'm at my public joint I teach at. I have a public, a private, and I'm down in the desert, you know, at PGA West in La Quinta. So this is my public spot. I'm wearing T-shirt and shorts as usual. This is the attire, mandatory attire out here today.
I love it.
So the valley's a little warm. We've got it about 95 today. I know it's not humid like it is back there, but, you know, I'm in the shade and just loving life, man. Birds are chirping. Slices are going straighter. What else could you do?
Well, that's what I'm here to talk about, a little bit fixing slices. And I told you before we went on the, recording, I said, hey, I did this with Peter Kessler a few weeks back and kind of rekindled. I said, the early days of the radio for me, and you remember that all those days, we've been doing this forever, was about just putting stuff out that helped recreational golfers. And I always go back to when I started that, one of my favorite shows on the Golf Channel. And when I started the interview with him, I said was Golf Academy Live, which I thought was still to this day, probably the best instructional thing they ever put on Golf Channel, because it was bringing great teachers up there, often with a guest and with a student, and just talking about helping people, and it was kind of what we started. And Ralph, who was my longtime partner on the radio show, was what we did with the radio. And I thought, why don't we get back to doing that a little more, and so a couple of weeks ago, Wayne and Jackson and I did How to Break 190, and obviously Golf Digest does some of this, but I thought, and a lot of people that listen to this are serious players, or why would they be driving around listening to you and I on a podcast they've downloaded, or they're a teacher. Obviously, we have a lot of teachers listening, but talk about breaking 80. Thought we'd come up with 10 things that you and I could talk about that would help people break 80. And I mean, just kind of curious your thoughts on that. So when somebody comes to you, and I get them a lot, they're in that, 9 to 15 range, that where they feel like they're in striking distance and they can right. get there. And they say, Brady, hey, my goal is to get where I'm consistently a single digit handicap. How to be a single digit handicap consistently. Where do you start with them, and what are some of the tips you get? Not tips, because I try to say I don't believe in tips. You and I know, but like, what's the info we can give them to help them get there?
What a great question. So I think there's kind of a multi-pronged way to look at it. First is, how are they spending their time away from the golf course?
Okay.
What's their practice look like? Are they organized? Are they working on things in a constructive way? Because, most people have jobs and lives, and they've got to maximize that time to be a quality practice session versus quantity. So I want to see that. I want to see that they're doing short putts, working from 9 feet and in. I want to see some speed stuff to minimize 3 putts. So putting wise, I want to see that. I want to see some vanilla chip shots in practice, just the basic ones. Doesn't have to go crazy with flop shots and whatnot. I want to see that those are under control. From the rough, some play around the green and some bunkers. Intermediate wedges, going out to getting to where your full swing practice has a combination of working on things to help you work on your contact, your start line, establishing a curve in your game, and then practicing with some stress. So that's kind of one bucket, like how do they spend that time? And then I want to see some stuff on the course. How are they doing with their strategy? Are they being intelligent about where they're aiming, what clubs they're choosing, where they're leaving shots, understanding where the right miss is, what their dispersions are, so that they can kind of benefit from making a good choice on where to aim on the green rather than wherever the flag is, And then we get into the technical stuff about mechanics of swing and whatnot. So those are the 3 basic, huge, broad strokes that I want to see, kind of a 3-pronged attack to make all of those effective. And then that should help the score come down. I'd say like the big thing with the full swing to me is I want to see a shot shape. Tony, you and I talk about this all the time about, you're a drawer and I was a fader. A couple of years ago, I decided to become a drawer too. I joined the party.
Hey, I'm starting to maybe go back a little to the fade. We just stay on opposite sides of the country. We just keep flip-flopping.
That's it. That's why we get along so well. So, I think establishing some shot shape that is predictable. I don't care if it curves a lot or a little. I just want to know that you're going to have some predictable shot shape, because it's easier to adjust that. Trying to move the ball both ways at that skill level is pretty difficult. I don't mind seeing the short irons maybe have an ability to fight a crosswind to hold the green a little bit better. But basically, man, if you can hit something that is going to happen, you're on your way. That's a big deal. And then, when it comes to like the contact stuff, just making sure the bottom of the arc's in front. But I think each aspect, you could probably do 30 things, right, on whether it's practice or on course strategy or mechanics of their techniques. But I think that's kind of how I would approach it. And then I'd see where they're most deficient, see if I can improve that to get it at least up to a decent level. And then I'm a big believer, Tony, in not trying to make everything great.
Yeah.
I think players that score well often avoid the areas that they're not very good at. If you're not good at hitting 40 to 70 or 80 yard wedge shots, try to avoid those areas while you're working on becoming a complete player, and stay out into a fuller wedge if you can. It's just easier for some people than hitting those intermediate wedge shots. I don't think you have to be great at everything. I just think you have to be really good at a few areas and then decent in the ones that you're not so good at. And if you can do that and double down on the things you do well, I think you can really organize your strategy to make that be sort of a place that you rely on and helps you score if you're really good in some area.
I want to touch on a couple of those because I loved all of them. But first one, the vanilla chip shots, right? I see lots of golfers in that area that we're talking about, and they think that the key to becoming a 5 handicap is the ability to get up and down from being short-sided and stuff like that. And yet, when I watch them on the golf course, or I go, to Old Palm, and you've obviously been there, you're going to be there in a month, and you put some balls down in front of like that first practice hole where it's a pretty vanilla, but like the shot you often get after 2 shots on a long par 4 or par 5. You've hit 2 pretty decent shots, maybe not quite as solid as you want. You're right in front, vanilla chip shot 30, 40 feet straight up the hill, and they leave themselves 8, 10, 12 feet. And I think that they think it's the getting up and down from short-sided. I mean, it's getting to where you get those up and down 80-90% of the time is a huge huge area. I think that's a big deal. And just like you talked about, devoting time to that and finding a club and a shot, even if it's not what the local tip du jour tells you should play that shot, but some club or shot that you can be proficient with most all the time.
Yep, I agree. I think that you and I focus on that area because they have so many of those shots.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an opportunity to get up and down where short-sighted with no green to work with is not. That's an opportunity to make doubles. If you'd rather make bogey from there.
Mm-hmm.
And just on the pure numbers, like I've always thought 8 greens in reg, 8 greens to me was the number you had to get to be somebody who could consistently count on being in the 70s all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you've played like I have, Tony, rounds where I've hit it like crap and hit 8 greens and shot under par. Those don't happen very often, but they can happen. But for the most part, if you hit 8 greens, I figure like on those 8 holes, you should definitely average somewhere about a half a shot under par. Mm-hmm. Not even 1 under, just 0.5 under. Just something a little teeny bit below par on the 8 holes you hit. You got 8 birdie putts. Maybe you 3-putt once and make a couple birdies, or you birdie once and don't 3-putt. Whatever that is, I'm a half a shot under par. I got 10 other holes now that I've got missed the green, right? So if I was on tour average, I'd get up and down half the time there, whether that's a putt from the fringe or I hit it in the water. But I don't expect players to get up and down 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10 times. That's probably unrealistic. So if they can get up and down 3 times out of the 10, and those vanilla chips are so important to that. Now they're 7 over for the holes that they missed. They're 0.5 under for the holes that they hit. And we've got a spot now that they're 6.5 over par, and that's a 78.5 on a lot of par 72s. And I don't think that makes it complicated. Sure, you're going to have days where you make a couple doubles, and you probably shoot 81 or 82 doing that. And then you'll have other days where you make a few more birdies and get more up and down, and you'll shoot 74. But I think to get to that range, 8 greens in reg is a critical number. Minimize the 3 putts by being really good at some speed drills, and then get very good in those 9-footed in putts so that when you are good at a vanilla chip, you leave yourself a lot of those putts, and you can make a fair share of those. And then I just don't think it's that tough if you've got the quality of ball striking to hit that many greens, that you shouldn't have any problem breaking 80. I really think that's the number. I think 6 makes it tougher, and 10 to me, if you're getting to 9 to 10, then you should be somewhere between 74 or 75 and lower.
Yeah.
If you get to that number.
Well, and I think all of the stuff you've talked about and that we, I think that we would agree, like they're all linked together. Like
for sure.
You're tuned into Auto Intelligence, live from Auto Trader, where data, tools, and your preferences sync to make your car shopping smooth.
They're searching inventory.
Oh, yeah.
They find what you need.
They're gonna find it.
You can make a budget for your wallet to help you succeed. Pricing's precise and true.
So true.
It's smarter car shopping.
Ooh.
Just for you.
Oh, it's just for you. Ooh. Find your next ride at autotrader.com. Powered by Auto Intelligence.
Whether your business has 6 floors or 6 employees, Walmart Business has everything you need to save time, money, and hassle. You can restock your break room with bulk ordering or bulk up your ordering team with shared payments. And you can get it all delivered straight to your business's door, whether that's on Wall Street or Main Street. Walmart Business. It's the Walmart you love, now for your business. Learn more at business.walmart.com.
If you develop a curve and a go-to driver, I think that's, I watch most 8 to 15, 8 handicap and above, and you watch them hit drivers on the range, and every driver, and you watch them on the course, it's the same speed, going at it full. And I walked 9 holes yesterday, 9 holes today at a Corn Ferry event, and I watched a couple guys I teach, and they played with guys that I don't teach, but watching them, and I mean, they're hitting different shots. They're trying to hit a specific shot off the tee instead of just making a swing and hitting it. Right. I think that I think that, like you talked about, developing some sort of a go-to curve that may not be full speed, may be teed lower, it may be a fade, it may be a big hook, whatever it is. It may be maybe your 3-wood, whatever it is, something that you can put in play on those 4 or 5 holes that maybe don't fit your eye.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
You know, I mean, Rick Lamb was saying, I was asking him why he hit driver on this hole versus the other guys were hitting a 3-wood. And I thought this was great. He said, well, because what other guys hit driving irons or whatever. And he said, well, because my miss with those clubs tends to be a pull. And that pull would bring that bunker in. My driver miss is to miss it to the left. He's a left-handed player. And that's a better angle if I miss the fairway, even if I'm not as good. Like having a curve, and then like you talked about, knowing how to think your way around the golf course and thinking about where your misses are, I think is one of the things that takes you from 6 greens to 10 greens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
You just make everything easier for yourself, whether it's the tee shot, like you said. I mean, I feel like lower trajectory is a safer space for almost everybody, right? So, like for me as a fader back in the day, and player we both worked with on tour, who is now, I believe, selling either insurance or real estate.
I knew where you were going with this, real estate.
But let's just say, when you're really good with the driver full speed, sometimes you don't need full speed, full power. You need straighter, you know? So as a fader, what I used to do with him and then what I'd done with myself is tee the driver down, you know? Tee that driver down. I can hit a driver off the ground straighter than I can hit it off the tee for sure.
Correct.
So I tee that thing down and I'm able to hit a lower cut, safer, not going to fly into trouble if I have a tight hole, you know? As a drawer now, I put the ball back a little bit more in my stance, you know, and I hit more of I have a driving iron, a 2-iron. I like to hit that low with a draw. And so if I'm on a hole that's uncomfortable for me, where I really need to hit the fairway, I'm going to pull one of those 2 shots out because I have a better chance of hitting the fairway. And when I hit the fairway, I got a better chance of hitting the green. Right. And that's just strategy. I don't want to be hitting driver every hole as hard as I can. That's foolish. You know, there's some holes I just have to hit the fairway or stay away from one side or the other. And that's what that gives me an opportunity to do. And then, like you said, I mean, a vast majority of players, except maybe on tour, miss short of the green. You know, whether they're 5 handicappers, 25, they're all short all the time. So usually the green's slightly elevated from being short of the green, right? So you've got a chip or a pitch now that you've got a lot of green to work with. The green's facing you. It's back to front sloping. It's a very basic chip or pitch shot that if you can fly the ball a distance that is consistent, 5, 10, 15, 20 yards with whatever club you're choosing, and it rolls at a certain amount of distance on all those, if you can hit that consistently, you got a heck of a good chance to have a putt within 9 feet, which is where I spend most of my players' practice time, 9 feet and in, you know? So that just makes sense. I'm trying to give them more practice in the shots they're going to have more often, that they have a better chance to execute. So now they've hit the fairway because they chose something different off the tee in terms of trajectory. We're hitting a shot into the green where we've used our dispersion skills to make sure we aim correctly on the left or the right side of the green. And then if I don't hit it solid and I'm short, I've worked on that chip and pitch a lot. And then that's going to give me a putt that I've worked on a lot. I got a shot, you know, I've got a shot at scoring. But if you're working on flop shots, if you're a fader and you're trying to hit a sweeping draw with a driver, you're a fool. You know, you're just not. It's not going to help you. You know, it might look great one time, but that's not how you go around 18 holes of golf day in and day out.
Well, there's too many of the best players in the world that only curve it one direction. Obviously, there's great players and best players in the world. You know, Tiger and guys, Scotty, they can hit it both ways and stuff like that. But I mean, there's great players that figured out how to get around only curving one way, and they can practice all the time. They hit balls every day. They're great athletes, great fundamentals, and great golf swing. I mean, we're talking about people that are working for a living and trying to get where they're breaking 80, learn to curve it one direction all the time.
Hey, Tony, I was going to ask you, so you're out there all the time, right? PGA Tour, Corn Ferry. What are you seeing? What's the percentage of players that you see that hit it straight most of the time?
Few.
Still few, isn't it?
In fact, this is a great point, and a great question. So Emilio Gonzalez, you've met Emilio in the years with me. Great player. I think he's destined to be one of the best players I've ever taught. A talent and just an all-around good human being as well. I felt like that, he's a drawer, okay? And I felt like he's done so much good work on his golf swing that he got too neutral. And that his proximity wasn't great because he's setting up there. He still sets up there and aims for a draw. And he hits a straight ball. And I turned him loose yesterday and today. They started hitting hooks and draws.
Right.
Like, get back to trying to draw it more. I thought it's over time and trying to get a little less under and all of the stuff that we look for. His setup had gotten more neutral, almost fade-ish. And, his hip pot, everything looked more like a guy trying to fade.
Interesting.
And went back, and then when I had him set up, and I said, drop your right foot back a little and move the ball back just a hair. Give me a little tilt. He felt like he was trying to hook this thing 50 yards around a tree. And when he looked at it on video, it looked pretty damn close to square, right? And I think but to your point, like, trying to hit it straight, I don't know I don't see many players do that. In fact, the point is, like, I gave a lesson today to a tour player to, like, get back to curving it, right? Like, that's not the way necessarily to hit it the closest. And there are a few guys out there that do try to hit it straight. I think, but the vast majority are trying to curve it because I think I think it makes the fairways twice as wide.
Hey, it's Paris. I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Becoming the most valuable sports franchise in the world doesn't happen without risk. A man who's willing to bet it all, and the players ready to make their own luck. America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, is the story of the 1990s Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones's impact on NFL history. Featuring interviews with iconic 90s players and more. Watch America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, August 19th, only on Netflix.
I agree. And I think too, like and I know you did this with Lucas, right? When Lucas came back to you wanted him to turn it over more again because that's who he was. And it really helped him. And I think, just to me, it's all about pictures. Like in your head, as you stand over a ball, you don't have TrackMan with you on a golf course in a tournament. Yeah. You don't have anything. You're naked right in front of the world out there.
Yeah.
You got to attach yourself to something that is, I'm going to hit this shot. There's not a lot of feel to straight. Straight's like a mistake, So there's a lot of feel to draw. There's a lot of feel to cut. You got a feel of those. You stand over the ball. I want to feel like I'm trying to do something instead of trying to not do something.
I love that.
And I just believe like having a curve and attach yourself to a curve. We see it all the time with players. They hit it shitty off the tee, right? They're trying to they block it into the crap off the tee. They're on a tee box, flat tee box, balls on a peg, can't hit the fairway. They hit it in the trees, they get this little window. Now they got to hit a low rising cut out of the trees, and boom, there it is. We saw Rory do it in the Masters this year in the final round. He couldn't hit the fairway with the driver, but put him in the trees with no shot. He'd have to go up through the craziest window and hit a draw. There it was. And that picture is so valid and so important. You gotta work yourself towards it.
Going to Rory, I love your comments on this because I think it goes to what we just said, and it's for guys or girls trying to play it, to get where they're in the sub 80 range. But when the heat got on and he was tight on the back nine, he 100% went back to slinging big hooks.
Absolutely,
right,
100%.
He went back.
100%.
I mean, he went back to who he is and his DNA. And he was slinging that sumbitch. iron. I mean, he hit into 15. I mean, that was bending.
And that was
right?
comfy. That was
Right.
super comfortable, right?
Right.
Like that's in his wheelhouse.
Mhm.
And so back on this, I hate to belabor this point, but I really
No.
think it's important. So like, I'm working with Yanni, and I've been working with her for a while now, and she's doing great.
By the
You'd be
way,
so proud.
kudos on the success. That's not easy to do.
It's been a lot of fun. But I think what's really interesting, before we started, I did a lot of research on her swing because I'd never worked with her. And I brought up a bunch of swings when she was number one in the world. And man, she was on the cut, I mean, the club head was outside at P2. It was laid off at the top. It was even more laid off coming down, That club was way behind her and kicking way out in front of her. Exit was, she's throwing the snot out of it on the way through left. It was great. Cut. That's who she was. She didn't even think about golf. And when we started working, I think I told you the story before. I said, okay, Yanni, hit a few shots for me. And she goes, what swing do you want to see? I'm like, well, I want to see the one that's sort of default, just the one you don't think about. She goes, I've had 10 different coaches at least. I have 10 different swings. Tell me which one. And so I said, well, that's a problem, right there. And then she hit a few shots, and the club head was inside it in the takeaway. It was a cross at the top. It was steep in transition. And after we talked for a while, she's like, I've been all these coaches that are trying to have me hit high draws. And I said, but weren't you number one in the world hitting a fade? And she goes, yeah. And I said, so look at it this way. You achieved number one in the world. You won 5 majors, okay? Early in your career, more at the same age than Tiger had at that point. And you were fading it, right? And then somewhere along the way, somebody told you it was a good idea to hit high draw. Well, as a fader, you were number one in the world, and you won 5 majors. As a drawer, I don't know if you could get your tour cards. And you've proven that it's been hard for you to make a cut that way. I said, we got to go back in time. And I know we can't resurrect the exact swing because you're a different physical human being, but now she cuts everything. Now we're on the cut. We keep working. Every time I see her, I'm like, I want it fading more. I want more fade, and now she's just feeling so much better about her golf. She doesn't think as much. She sees shots and she hits shots. She could hit driver off the ground or driver off her knees for years because the club was so far behind her on the downswing. And now she can drive her off the ground again. She can drive her off her knees. And to me, those are great signs that as a fader, you're up on top of the plane doing the things you want to be doing. But it's interesting, like reattaching her to the shot shape has brought her game back. Golf's easier again. And I just feel like, you and I, because we're crazy and we experiment on ourselves all the time, we'll go out and change. I changed it for 2 years. I've been hitting a draw because I wanted to see if I could do it. It's been very educational for me, as a player and helping me understand what I need to do as a teacher. But I'm not playing professionally, and I don't care what I shoot. The average person's trying to do something, break 80. Right. Man, find the thing that's easier. Let's ride that thing. And when you overcurve it, know in your game what that means, ball position or whatever you're doing to help it not overcurve. And if you're not curved it enough, find out what you need to do to curve it more. And if you can just stay in that space, man, you got a chance. Don't hit straight.
That is exactly what Scheffler did between 9 and 10 at the PGA. He understood his swing. He's curving it one way. It's starting a little more left. He knew how to correct that. And I think that's another part of becoming a single-digit handicap. It's like he's curving it one way, but developing an understanding of what your tendencies are and how you can self-correct those on the golf course.
Couldn't have said it better, man. That's so important, right? Because nobody I've ever seen in the history of golf has, in the first hole, put it right in the middle of the tee box, hit it exactly where they were looking, and played 18 holes like that, woke up the next day and did it again. That does not happen. And you've seen it because you're out there more than me. Great players adjust on the fly. And the ones that can change on the fly win major championships when the front 9 sucked. Just like Scotty did, right? The ones that can't adjust to the misses, miss cuts. And I think, just as a coach, I want my players to have the sort of the agency over their own game that they can adjust on the golf course, making the right change because they understand their own mechanics. And without that kind of knowledge, you're not going to travel well.
Yeah.
You're going to go on a golf trip and it could go south the first 9 holes, and for the next 4 days you suck. But a person who can control their misses and understands their mistakes, they're playing better at the end of a golf trip and not worse. And that says something about you if you can do that.
Brady, this was awesome. We got to do this more. I like when we just sit around talking about, I mean, which is the same thing we do when you come down or if I'm out west. I mean, just talking, teaching, and helping regular folks play better. And I mean, that's what we did it for. And I mean, you know, I told one of these young teachers that sent me a message the other day, and it was wanted to watch me, come watch me. Could I come watch you, observe you? And I said, come anytime you want. But I mean, you know, can I watch? I want to come when you teach tour players. Though. I said, well, shit, you're not going to do that. I said, because first of all, you're not teaching them. Two, that's not why I started or how I did it. And that's still not what I do most of my day.
For sure. Sure. I mean, it's such a small percentage of time, right? I mean, compared to what you're doing on a daily basis.
You know, and to wrap it up, like, too, because I love your last quote on this, was like, you know, the question, how do you get to teach tour players? Well, the way you get to teach tour players is you get to take people from shooting 80 to 70 and you get good at it. And then you get some high school kids that couldn't break 80 and you get them to shoot in the low 70s or break par and go to college. And then you get those college kids that weren't the best college kids and you get them to be really good. And then you get one of those guys to play for a living, right? That's how you do it. It isn't walking out on a tee and being good and having some info and tour players start coming to you.
You're right, man. There's no secrets out there. I mean, you got to figure it out over a long period of time. That's what it takes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the Brady lost it. We lost Brady, but that was some fantastic stuff. He does an amazing job. Hope all of you enjoyed this. Understanding how to become a single-digit handicap. We'll have more for you on the next episode of The Tour Coach.